Coming to you from Investor Town Hall's headquarters in San Diego, I'm Daniel Wong. On today's program, we have CEO of Pressure BioSciences, Ric Schumacher, on here with us today. We're talking about how to invest in the cancer moonshot and also about the latest company developments. But stay right there. We're talking about what investors need to know about PBIO. President and CEO Ric Schumacher is on the show with us today of Pressure BioSciences. And Ric, we've had you on before. We wanted to thank you for coming back on the show again.
I'm very happy to be here. Thanks for the invitation.
Well, Ric, last time we spoke with you, there's obviously quite a lot of developments that have gone on. But for the people out there who might not have seen the past interviews, could you give us a brief overview of Pressure BioSciences?
Love to do it, Dan. We're a life sciences tools company, which means we make equipment, medical equipment that goes into research labs all around the world, and we also sell related consumables to these instruments. Everything in nature has a pressure point. Every biological sample, every virus, every bacteria, every cell, cancer cell, normal cell, they all have a pressure point at which that pressure you can break them open. As scientists, we need to get inside cells now. To see what makes them tick. We need to study the RNA, the DNA, the proteins, and the lipids. We use methods that were developed when I was in the lab many, many years ago. Still, even though the methods for analyzing the DNA and the RNA and the other molecules have increased incredibly, we still are using the basic techniques that we used 20, 30, 40 years ago for the most part. We at Pressure BioSciences have developed a brand new method called pressure cycling technology, or PCT. We actually use pulses of pressure to break open cells to release all of the information that's held in the proteins, the lipids, and the RNA and DNA. This is sort of treating the, let's say as an analogy, treating the cell like a sponge. Others, the current methods are breaking up the sponge by banging away at it using mechanical means. We squeeze it. We squeeze cells, and we're able to break apart cells by multiple squeezes at multiple pressures and temperatures to release all of this good stuff.
Amazing technology, Ric, and the fact that you're able to give people in your field but it's a much better chance of finding those proteins and those things like that to cure some of those diseases we're looking for. But to go back to these three major accomplishments this year, I mean, one, you paid off all the variable debt. That was huge. You signed with a subsidiary of a $70 billion company with SciEx, and obviously the leading mass spec seller. And then also your sales have been increasing year over year more than 25%. So Ric, tell us a little bit about how you've gotten here so far.
Yeah, it's been a great year so far. Really a lot of kudos to my staff. As you know, we're a very small company and we're somewhat limited in the capital we have. So when you look at the limitation in capital and what we had when we came into the year, I'm really astounded. I'm so pleased and so proud of our team. As you say, we paid off over $3 million of debt. This isn't just debt. This was very harsh debt that could have hurt the company had it converted into stock. We paid off all $3 million without having any of it convert into stock. So I'm very proud of that. The second thing is, as you mentioned, we signed a co-marketing deal, a 2-year exclusive co-marketing deal with SciEx. SciEx is the largest company in the world in selling, in terms of market share, in selling an instrument called a mass spectrometer to research labs all over the world. The mass spectrometer is the instrument of choice that's used by protein scientists, and there are thousands, tens of thousands of protein scientists out there that need to study proteins and compare the proteins they get from cells, from normal cells to cancer cells to precancer cells, cells where people are able to fight off a disease, cells coming from people who are unable to fight off a disease. This comparison requires breaking open the cell and then comparing the proteins. And there are as many as 10,000 different proteins in a cell. So when you're, as a scientist, think you have the protein called a protein X, you need to break open a cell, find protein X among maybe 10,000 proteins, pull it out, then chop it, we call it digest it, chop it down into smaller pieces and put this into the instrument called the mass spectrometer. And this is a very, very complex set of things that have to be done, and we're still doing them in ways that we did 20-some years ago. So I'm very happy to say that we were able to co-market with the #1 company in the world developing the analytical instrument, the mass spectrometer, and we sit in front of that instrument And we're just starting to look at some of the fruits of that co-marketing, and very excited about the next year. And the third thing, as you mentioned, our sales have been going up. We don't really have a large sales team. We have one person, one field salesperson, and she's actually been backed off to half time because she's spending half her time doing marketing with our co-marketing partner at SciEx. So to be able to take our sales from a couple $100,000 to $300,000 to back-to-back $500,000 quarters with the limitations we've had, I think is just a testament to the hard work of my staff.
Absolutely, and can't wait to see what comes next for that. So congratulations there. Like to touch on this Cancer Moonshot initiative. There was a press release just on it the other day. We're hearing about this. There's quite a bit of funding being set aside from the government. Tell us a little bit about this, Ric, please.
Sure. President Obama talked about it in his January State of the Union. He put Vice President Biden in charge. This is $1 billion from about 200 million last year and about 800 million this year. That's going additional funds going into cancer research. They're trying to do in the next 5 years what would normally take 10 years. They're trying to get groups, organizations, individual scientists from all over the country and all over the world to work more together, to work better together, to start sharing data more than they've ever done before. And in order to do this, one of the things that you need to do is you need to enhance the research that's being done in cancer. And one of the enhancements we think that we bring to the table is a brand new instrument that was just released just a couple of months ago. And we've made about 8 or 9 of them in our first run, and all have been sold. And the first 3 that were sold went to the Children's Medical Research Institute in Australia. They were named by Vice President Biden in July as a collaborator, official collaborator of the Cancer Moonshot and our National Cancer Institute. So we're very proud that the first 3 instruments of our brand new next generation pressure cycling instrument were sold to one of the top leading cancer institutions in Australia and will be used in the Cancer Moonshot program.
Yeah, absolutely. Congratulations on that as well. I mean, obviously, that's such a big thing that everyone's been looking forward to trying to find if we can cure cancer in certain areas, obviously. I wanted to touch and kind of go back on a news event you had fairly recently. You know, when we talk about the microcap sector, when we're analyzing companies, is it a good company to invest in? We're looking at potential revenue, not what revenue is today, but what's coming down the line. Another big part of it is how is the company structured, especially when it comes to funding. So just the other day, you had a news event around some of that. Can you touch on that event as well, please?
I can. We announced that we had closed on a $2 million line of credit, and that we've drawn down the first $500,000. This is very exciting for us. As you know, Dan, and I think many of your listeners know, running a small company, especially publicly traded, is very difficult. And when you're in the development stage, you're developing your product and trying to change a paradigm that's existed for generations of scientists. It makes it even more difficult. I have spent a lot of my time, the vast majority of my time, if you look at 100% of whatever hours I spend, the vast majority are spent in fundraising for the last couple of years. I'm out on the road. I'm telling the story to investors all over the country, all over the world. I'm looking for money to help support our growth. This is what changes now. With a $2 million line of credit, I can reduce my time out on the road. In fact, the last 2 weeks, or the first 2 weeks I've had back-to-back that I can recall in the last 6 months, where I've been here in the office working with my guys and not on the road at least 1 or 2 of those days, perhaps even more. So having that line of credit, number one, it enables me to stay back in the office and work with my team more. Number two, it has enough funds in it that we believe we're going to be able to add. In fact, we spent time in the last couple of days looking at ads for salespeople, West Coast salespeople, East Coast salespeople. We need people in operations, because as our sales increase, we now need to increase the number of people we have in production and operations. Our sales have gone from a couple $100,000 a quarter to $500,000 a quarter. We've already done over $1 million in the first half of this year, and we're doing all of this with the same 9 slots that we've had for the last 4 years. So this line of credit means so much for us. And it's going to enable us to really focus on the business, on growing the business, on bringing in some people that will help us grow the business. And as we also mentioned, we are looking at an uplist. We're looking at the potential of uplisting our company back to the NASDAQ stock market. So this enables us, it gives me the time to start focusing on that part too, now that I'm not going to be on the road as often as I was, looking at telling the story of Pressure Bio to investors.
Absolutely, and we know it's a never-ending job, obviously, to have to continue to raise funds. So it's great to hear you've got favorable terms as well. I mean, 38%, I think, above the PPS there, where you're able to offer the warrants there. So a lot of investors are always worried about things such as toxic debt, but you got obviously funding there with very favorable terms, which shows a lot of strength and a lot of confidence in the people behind you. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
And Rick, we've got your financials coming up here in the next couple of weeks. I believe we'll probably see them out on the 14th. I don't know if that's the right date or not, but we're definitely looking forward to seeing those as well, seeing the growth with the company. So, but other than that, we wanted to thank you for coming on. We wanted to have you back on again and give us another update to wrap up the year possibly for us. But congratulations on all the progress, and thanks so much for taking time out of your Saturday with us.
You're very welcome. Thank you, Dan.
Thanks, Rick. Well, that was our guest, Ric Schumacher from Pressure BioSciences, CEO and President. We wanted to thank him for coming on the show again. Catch more video interviews on investortownhall.com and tune in next time and get your voice heard. Stay tuned for the next interviews here on investortownhall.com. Also, make sure to join a stock board to start the discussion and get your voice heard. Stay tuned for the next interviews here on investortownhall.com. Also, make sure to join a stock board to start the discussion and get your voice heard.